Good evening and welcome to another episode of Extra Hours. This is a special edition where Grant has flown all the way from across the ocean to this side of the pond, and we are coming from a roof deck in an undisclosed location, but we can see that it's kind of above the sphere. So if you can get to the sphere and figure it out, you'll see where these guys are. So let's go ahead and jump over to their shot, and you can see these guys live from the rooftop in Las Vegas.
Hey, everybody. Hello, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Starlink, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Starlink
to the
and some
magic
cellular. Yeah.
And some cellular. So we got a Peplink. How are we coming in?
Well, we have a Peplink with 2 cell modems, and then the Starlink is primarily what we have set up. So if it falls over, it'll have to fall over to cellular, but Starlink's pulling fine.
Right on. For those of you who haven't seen this show before, we've got a couple guests here, some familiar faces. The first one that was just talking, Jeff, you want to go ahead and let us know a little about you?
Jeff Keithley here, and kind of been around a while now, believe it or not, my 40th year in the business, so of some sort of things, and kind of ended up in a whole lot more of video production than I had, but mostly multi-talented in different areas and stuff, but glad to be back and joining a very esteemed table of professionals in blue, both. that was it before I took a shot at him.
That was good. Very good.
All right, let's jump over to CJ. Sounds like you guys are having fun up there.
We are having a good time. It's nice to be outside. CJ Covell, I host Fridays on office hours, and then also I'm the NAB steady for this year, so I'm here open to close for the show. We did some stuff in after hours earlier, which was fun. I look after the IT side of a manufacturing business in addition to some other things, and then am constantly trying to marry the lessons that we bring from, or that you all bring from a broadcast world and a production world, and how can I use those to amplify other areas that sometimes ignore it. I think it's great video and great audio can be the great accelerator for ideas, and so it's why I'm so passionate about being here. So go Vegas.
And it's been a pleasure watching you evolve. I've got to say, CJ, from when you first stepped into where you've come a long way. Hopefully the people around your office notice your better video, better audio, better communications, all from the power of doing it.
I appreciate you saying that, Guy. We have been working pretty hard at it, and at first I thought that I was doing everything in a vacuum until one of my colleagues, who is the furthest thing from video production quality conscious, came to me and said, "Hey, I need my Zooms to look like your Zooms. Like, how can I do that?" And then all of a sudden I was like, click, okay, there's magic happening. And there's been actually a couple of great conversations around the floor about that specifically, and I could talk about that for hours, so I won't start now.
We'll make it a question, because I want to circle back to that, but we'll keep going around the horn. We got our normal host here, camping in the back.
That's right.
What's going on, man?
Hey, Guy. Thank you. Yeah, it's Grant Whitehead, normally reporting from Adelaide, South Australia, and now in Vegas town, and I do a bunch of virtual events. And I do some, reluctantly, I do some in-person events.
Reluctantly.
But
I have to put on my shoes sometimes.
But it did work out well that I work with Blue, and we do some cool stuff with a little platform called Obvio. And it was not quite last minute, but only a few weeks ago, made the decision to come across, and so I threw in my podcast of Pro II and a bunch of these headsets, and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work out, but this is awesome. We can see, I don't know, Guy, whether you said about the sphere, but just over my shoulder is actually the South Hall. The West Hall you wouldn't be able to see here, but it's straight down is the West Hall. And north back this way, and Central is closed for the event, but we're literally live from. Oh, you're trying to show it?
Yeah. So for those of you who can't see this, I'm zoomed in on using their Insta360. I'm controlling it through Zoom, so it's a little rough because I just get a 4-way arrow here, but you can kind of see their view and what they've got here. They've got the Starlink. It was on the table there. Where'd the Starlink go?
I put it on the floor so I had a little bit better shot.
Okay.
It's a little further down.
So there's the PepLink, there's the RODECaster, there's some small rig batteries, there's CJ stuff. So this is pretty cool that we could control other people's cameras from afar, just using Zoom.
It's really cool, yeah. So that's an Insta360 I've got on the top of the laptop there. Everything's running on battery. We've got no power up here. And
thank goodness, because we'd need 240, right?
And that's exactly, yeah. None of this would work. It needs to be
It came all the way
240
from
volt.
Australia.
Yeah. So this is not the normal look that you would see, this type of view, but hopefully this sounds good enough with us being outside, and we'll be able to share some thoughts of what we've seen in the halls.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what and hear what you guys have found to be the most exciting things on the show floor. It's been fun watching Omar today, and Grant, I saw a little of your stuff. I missed your stuff, CJ. You said you visited the Blackmagic booth. We'll circle back to that in just a minute. Let's finish going around the horn here. We got Blue Milnick we got one more surprise guest after we go to cut to Blue. And Blue, you want to give us a little scoop on your background and where you're from?
Sure, yeah. So former circus performer, juggled for about 18 years, the first 20 years or so of Jeff's illustrious career in technology, which makes a lot of sense why they put me behind the audio board today, if you can call a RODECaster Pro II an audio board. I know our friends, stop messing with my levels.
You're a little bit hot there.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. And stop touching my stuff, okay?
All right.
All right? Just say, you're a little hot, turn it down.
Okay.
I can do that. I can ride a fader with the best of them, okay? These days I have hung up my juggling shoes, if you were to call them that. Did it mostly barefoot. And we do some virtual events from time to time. And Grant helps out, which is great, given the fact that he's a day ahead of us. So he can kind of tell us what's going to happen and where the pitfalls are of what we're doing, which is super helpful. So yeah, happy to be here. Vegas is
Vegas.
Gosh, it's horrible, but it's exciting to be here for NAB and to see some friends in person that we normally hang out with just via Zoom. So that part's exciting, and we saw some cool stuff. So yeah,
Dude.
Awesome. And we got one more guest that's a first timer on here. We got Omar also in Vegas. It was roaming the floor with a nifty little bonded cellular. You want to tell us a little bit about your background, Omar?
Sure. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys. I was in after hours quite a bit today with a kind of a weird rig here, and I can show you guys that a little bit if you'd like to see. But I have a small video production company in Orange County in Southern California, and we do live sports. We do a lot with live surfing. It's kind of one of our specialties. And we also do regular video production. We have fashion and standard corporate stuff and sales meetings and the whole gamut. We try to get ourselves involved in a little bit of everything. But I get a lot from office hours. I'm not very active other than a viewer, but I get a lot from the show each day. I listen, I learn a lot every day. So it was really nice to be in after hours for the people that were popping in there and be able to give back a little bit. The show, unfortunately, is a little bit early for me and my schedule each weekday and weekend even. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that you were in Orange County doing live sports. I mean, Jeff Keithley, I just did some live sports with him, and that's his background. But what lenses are you using to get all the way across the beginning of an ocean to get way out there? You got some big glass?
100 to 400 is usually what we'll use. We do most of our stuff with like FX6 or FX9 and Super 35, so we can get a little bit more reach that way. You could use camcorders; it just doesn't look quite as nice. But that's what most people do at the level that we're doing it. You know, we're not using the big box lenses, unfortunately. That's a little bit out of the budget for most of the events in the sporting world. Budgets aren't big in surfing, unfortunately. But
Omar,
so yeah, 100 to 400 is a good all-rounder. 100 to 600 too for Sigma. That's a nice alternative.
How readily available is the rig that you had out on the floor today? Can you show us a little bit of that? Because
Sure.
you were
a little,
producing
view.
some really cool content in After Hours, but what you built there...
This is not for sale, unfortunately.
That's fancy. You fancy, huh?
TSA did not love me, I have to admit, when I was coming through. They pulled me aside and told me to get pre-check about four times. But so readily available. I don't know. It's just a little bit of a DIY. Actually, let me switch cameras here, and I can kind of show you real quick.
Sorry, I meant readily available as in, is it in arm's reach? I don't think I could. I wouldn't know how to buy that or put it together.
Apparently, B&H don't have that.
Yeah. So this is a. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that this is a Jetson Nano. So this is a little computer board by NVIDIA. I think they released maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's running a software called BellaBox, which is it uses SRT-LA, and maybe Jeff or Blue or somebody here knows a little bit more about the protocol and how it differs from LRT or TRT or any of the others, but it uses SRT-LA. It goes up to a relay server that the person that develops the software hosts, and then I push that via SRT back to a vMix instance, and then I bring that over to After Hours or a Zoom meeting from the same local machine back in my office in Orange County. And then I brought the audio into my discard call, and that's how I got my mix minus, so I could speak to people. It's about a 2.5 second delay. And that's what we were streaming from the floor on After Hours, and it's pretty good. I'm doing 1080-60 from it. So
how many modems are in that, Omar?
I've got 3 modems, one from each carrier, AT&T,
nice.
Visible with Verizon, and then a T-Mobile 5G. And I was pushing out about 9,000 kilobits a second. So, and I was getting about 3,000 from each. It was pretty good on the show floor. I was actually quite surprised how good it was.
Well, and Omar, I would just like to say thank you for including me when mentioning Jeff and people who may know something about the protocols you were referring to.
You're up in the cloud, aren't you?
Most days I am in the clouds, yes.
Feet on the ground, head in the clouds. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, or I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot, but you showed me that in person, and I was like, this is the coolest science experiment I've seen in a while. It's really nice.
Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend this software for professional use. It's very, he developed it for IRL streamers on Twitch. That's primarily the market that he develops it for, people that are running their own shows and walking around. This is another very popular kit. This is the camera I was using right here. It's a Sony FDR X3000, which is a action camera from Sony from 2017. But it's got IBIS in it, and it's got a clean HDMI out, and I can power it from just a regular power bank via 5 volts, and I can get 8 or 9 hours on it. And it looks pretty good. The IBIS is really nice with the wide angle for walking around. It's pretty steady for what it is, and it's lightweight. And I have a $20 little monopod tripod thing from Amazon. And yeah, if anybody saw it in After Hours, it was pulling its own weight, but. Do not replace your live with this because it's got a lot of weirdness to it. Your Peplink is, I think their market share is secure.
There's still room. There's plenty of room. Plenty of room for more.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm glad to be able to see that we got innovation coming in from the high end to the low end and places in between, because that's what it's all about. I mean, we're trying to convey a message, and being able to have Omar bring that in. In years past, I've brought in using Keenan's modem solution, which was a 4G solution. Now I saw him on the floor with the new Miri, which is spelled differently than, I think it's MIIRI, which offers now 5G. And then they had that in a backpack unit, but it looked pretty burly compared to some of the other solutions out there. I mean, Omar, I saw your backpack that you housed that in. It made it look much more elegant when it was hidden, but I'd imagine you had some cooling issues with that, or was it heating up?
So there's a temperature gauge on it. I have these fans that I built in, that I screwed in. That powers via USB. So there's an intake and an exhaust, which is pretty nice. if I didn't have those fans on, and it was fully enclosed in this backpack right here, which is like a, I don't know, it's a pretty bad one. It's an in case, but I hate it. But anyways, I was using this one, and it was fully enclosed. There's no airflow in there, and it was the board itself was at 62 degrees Celsius. So that's, in my opinion, that's fine. I think it was okay there. But when I had the fans off,
if you get a chance, it'd be cool to see you bring that over to the Teradek booth. They announced that they were coming out with something before the show, and I haven't. I'm not boots on the ground. Some of you guys will have to jump over there and see what they released that might be in that same ballpark. I know they have the elegant solution that's way more money. Obviously, I mean the Jetson Nano is what, like $400. Like, what are you all in on your build?
Well, I built this two or 3 years ago. It was kind of my first foray into bonding. I didn't really know anything then, so I built that then. There was some COVID pricing involved there with the Jetson boards, but I don't know, all in with the modems and all that stuff, maybe $400.
That's amazing.
Not too bad.
And it's probably more reliable than anything from Teradek anyway. So.
Oh, no, they got good stuff, man.
Shut off the bow.
I don't know, man.
I've got the video go, and I'm not thrilled. And I know that's an older one, and maybe their new stuff is a little bit better.
A couple of the Bond backpacks back in the day, and both were solidly unreliable.
Yeah, that stuff, I had the bonds as well. But yeah, I'd agree with you there. But the new stuff, I was just at a community access meetup where they were talking about going live to air almost every day with their Teradek solution. So it's definitely gotten better. So I'm excited to see what else they've come out with. And I know that Unlimited IRL, I don't know if you've been to that site, Omar, but Unlimited IRL used to rent something similar. Yeah, I used to rent their SIM cards because they'd give you an unlimited package. So it's nice when you go out to something like NAB and have all those modems, because you had to go get those each individually.
Yeah, I've got a Nighthawk here running AT&T. I think it's an iPad plan, so I added it onto my business account for $25 for unlimited. Visible is $25 unlimited, and then I've got a $50 100 gigabyte 5G plan from T-Mobile. That's part of our cell phone plan for our business. And then yeah, it's that adds up, but that's just cost of doing business. We use it for other stuff. So
well, I'd love to hear from the guys on the rooftop, going around from Jeff first, to hear what's been the most exciting thing that you've seen on the floor so far that you'd want to share with all the viewers. What stood out to you?
This is probably, I don't know, 25 or 27, somewhere around there, years I've come to the show. There's, for a long time, it was real stale. There wasn't a whole lot of new and, oh, this is great, got to go see it. I distinctly remember when Red came out and everybody was talking about that camera platform and everything. So you don't have those really big, huge announcements as much anymore. It's just kind of like all of the same. As I've been walking around, and really for my real goal here is just to be here and meet the vendors that I am using, I have associations with, and just hear about the little things that have made improvements and all. I really can't say that there's been anything that's just
come on, Joe DeMax would just not be happy with your answer here.
I've had my hands on that one for a while, so it's not
so
new
spill
to
the
me.
beans. You can now talk about it.
I can talk about it now. All right, so Central Control, which is a great control platform as middleware to be able to control different softwares and different switchers and everything with other hardware, different hardware, and just ties it all together. It's that middle glue. He has version 5.0 now, which is absolutely amazing. I use, and we're integrating in our Nimbus platform, the actual, the web panel is what he calls it. So it's like a touchscreen interface. You can build it out with buttons, with sliders, with even a joystick for camera control, and it's just presented in a web page. And it is just really, really, really good stuff.
And live preview too, right?
Yes, and you have video feeds coming back off of it. It's slick.
Yeah.
It is previews. We actually use it here on Extra Hours Taylor, I need that link, by the way. But we'll use it in extra hours to feed out program whenever I'm monitoring on the road and stuff.
It's really
yeah,
cool.
It really is. He's done a really good job.
Yeah.
For a small team as he is, it's not just him. He has a couple of people that work with him, but that's probably one of the bigger ones out there that have shown a big jump. But as far as gear and stuff, I just really wasn't, I don't know, nothing really jumped out at me. Okay, except for one thing, and my son Jared sent me a video of it. There was one thing. It was a tracked, sorry, can you have the B-roll on DDR4? Ready to roll it? I'm sorry I didn't upload that.
I was like, really? Wow.
It was a tracked power supply. So like a spider box on tracks.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you need power? And then just, drive it anywhere you need to go.
Did you see the big one as well?
The big one was the size of a small SUV.
I know.
Yeah.
The little one had like a ball hitch on it,
Yes.
so that you could drag a cart then with it and have it just be.
Both of them did.
Yeah. Both of them
on the
did.
big one,
But it's a pintle hitch on the big one. yeah, it's serious.
On the big one, you can tow it or use it to tow, right? Because that's how you can get it to on site. Is you would take it, on a hitch on a car.
It's just that, talk about an unusual product.
It really is.
Like, who would need this?
So
I guess some
smart,
film
though.
companies that if you're shooting on the beach or something, maybe.
Well, it was 9,000 kilowatts. 9,000. No, sorry,
I didn't
9
even
kilowatts.
ask. Holy cow, that's big.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah, so you can run
that's
a house on it.
That's the 10th of my car. Wow. It's still pretty big.
Is that a Tesla Flex just then?
Well, depends on which car.
Right, okay. Very good.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. How about you, CJ? What was impressive? Is there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, big thing for me was not only seeing the flashy technology that we look at on all the press releases, right? You go by the Blackmagic booth and you see the Ursus Cine Immersive and the 17K, and you get to feel what the buttons are like on the ATEM Extreme ISO G2. But then you start to go into the folks who are selling to the other vendors that are there, right? The company in Taiwan that makes the buttons is what interests me. Like the company that is making another version of those spherical lenses specifically for those spatial capture market. You can sort of kind of see, not to the same degree at somewhere like a CES, but you can sort of see what are the seeds of ideas that those manufacturers are going to go to down the pipe as opposed to what's out right now. And so it's been one of these, it's been one of these things where I'm like, do I go the next, because I've been to Taiwan a little bit for work, and I was like, the next time I go there, can I somehow like pad in an extra day and make an excuse to go see the custom button manufacturer and be like, how much would it be to just make, a set of 50? I don't need to make 5,000, but just for a set of 50, usually they make you buy the molds if it's like something that's out of stock or that's something that's not stock. But I would love to see like how hard really is it to make that little, it's like the buttons for the Stream Deck, but the company that sold it to Elgato. And so that stuff is the building blocks is as much interesting to me as the stuff that we all get our hands on. But other than that, walking around the Sony booth, it looks like there's a Mark II version of the FX6 out that I haven't I didn't spend enough time there because I was chasing Alex's stream yesterday. I was in between trying to figure out where they were, but then monitor the stream. I didn't know if I had to, like, Alex started the stream on his laptop and then handed it to me and then didn't tell me what to do. And I didn't know if I was allowed to close the laptop, so I didn't. So I walked around for an hour, like my hands started to cramp up. I'm walking around with this laptop, but I need to go ahead to the next booths to try and get, because like, hey, we've got the DPA 5100, we're streaming in 5.1 surround, so that people who are on over-the-top box can have that ambiance like they're there. And again, if you didn't see that, what they did was they took the center channel out of the DPA 5100 that was streaming in 5.1, but then they put the center channel as the microphones that Grant and Alex were on. So they were right in the center channel where they were supposed to be. And I knew where the DPA booth was, and I knew where Grant and Alex and the rest of the team were, and I had to be like, if you're in a racing game on the Nintendo 64 and there's like a waypoint up ahead, like a checkpoint that you have to get to. Like I was always trying to be just out of frame and far enough ahead that somebody could see where the next turn they had to make was. And then as soon as they got close, I was like, okay, I'm going to run up ahead and go again and be like, hey.
Nice.
So the next 3 days or 2 days. 2 days. I don't know what day of the week it is, but the next 2 days should be nice because I've got just time to go around and play and see more stuff. So I'm going to try and do more after hours because I had a ton of fun. I would have never in a million years gone to Delta Tech or whatever the booth. It was across from PTZ Optics. I was trying to get Paul Richards' attention, but he was in a conversation with someone else, and then Andre's in the chat in after hours, and he says, hey, can you go over? I use the NDI to HDMI card from these folks. I'd love to hear what's new. And so that's really powerful to be able to go and say, hey, I've got 40 or 50 of my friends from all around the world. They'd love to talk to you, but they couldn't make it. Do you have a few minutes? That's a really powerful statement. So cool stuff all around.
Right on. And we do have room for questions if anybody in Mukana wants to ask questions. So we've got a couple stacking up, and we'll get to those. But first, I want to round out with Grant and Blue and Omar and see what their picks are for this 2025 NAB.
Yeah, I haven't quite got to spend time in the Blackmagic booth yet. We sort of walked through quickly, but I want to spend a bit more time there and have a look at tomorrow, be able to do that. I got pulled in. This is a good example of what happens at the show, where someone handed me a postcard and said, do you want a t-shirt? And she's like...
17 miles later.
Yeah, that's
literally 17 miles to get a free t-shirt. Totally, better be nice.
Totally worth it. No, so, but she was like, oh, are you, she said, are you into sound or something like that? And I said, yeah. And so I actually can't remember the booth name. It was Sound.
Where's the t-shirt?
Yeah, I know. It's not here. I don't think. No,
so was she just walking around? It's like, do you want a free t-shirt?
Yeah, she was being
follow
sneaky.
Me.
Yeah, she was right next to the guys with the dirty cards, like here, like have a card.
It was in sort of the main entrance hallway, and so she was just kind of sneaking there, and she was handing it out. Anyway, so I held on to it for a while, and then just before we were going to leave, I was like, oh, I should go get this free t-shirt. So I go over to the booth, and this really nice guy started explaining all their gear. And it was a small booth, but it's not a small company. They're actually like getting ready to do all the sort of sound infrastructure for Kelly Clarkson's show here, and so they were showing like this open gear type rack setup for audio, which was any card you can think of. So it was, of course, it was analog audio in and out easily, but then it was Dante cards. You can do MADI, you can do 2110. It was like anything on this thing. But what was amazing is they were talking about how the way they process it is it's 32 float, but they do it in 4 sections, and they process it at mic level, so it doesn't actually have a mic pre in it, and so you're not gaining it up. It processes it at 4 times 32-bit and creates this huge dynamic range, and it sends it through at that. And then when you're doing a digital gain, you're not bringing up all the noise, so it's incredibly quiet. And then they have this fiber interconnect. Anyway, so going into massive detail with this, and then they step over to a console, and they just show this beautiful console that was really nicely laid out, a really good digital console, but it looked like an analog console in the sense that it was. There's nice big screens in it, the monitors. Did you see this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really nice big monitors. And then they had just a series of pots that was really clear what it is that you were changing. Anyway, and there was several things that I saw on this console. I was like, that is really, really cool. And then one of them was like, I said, now what about effects? And they said, well, it doesn't actually have any onboard effects because of the way that it does its processing. And so then I said, oh, so you could do offboard, sort of, and bring that in. And he said, yeah. What's cool though is that these, like, they were probably 20-inch monitors or something, and there was 3 of them in the middle of the console. And he said, what's cool is that these are just Linux-based kind of terminals. And so what we've built in is a screen share capability. So right on the console, you can just go, remote desktop into some other, whatever else with all of your plugins. And so then I said to him, so like QLab? He's like, yeah, you could totally bring up Mac. He said, sometimes I'll run Pro Tools on one of these screens, and then I can just hit a button and it changes back to all of the, all of the attributes of what you were doing. Anyway, so this is a good example. I had no plan to go to this company. They got me in on the idea of the free T-shirt. I ended up geeking out with this guy for some time, and I think they were like, okay, in order for you, I was joking with Blue. I was like, was this like a timeshare that they were trying to sell me as well? in order to get the free T-shirt, you've got to listen to the 30-minute presentation, which is just about what it was. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and probably not something that I'll be purchasing, but I will be singing their praises for some time. So that was my highlight today.
Cool.
Wow, that was a long way going around the...
Did you ever mention the company name? I
can't remember. The good thing is
marketing wins.
The good thing is I've got a T-shirt that will remind me.
All right, you have to share that with us a bit later.
Right?
Blue,
Yeah.
how about you? What did you find? I know you spent some time at looking for that. Was it Utah?
The Utah Scientific, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time at that booth. That was more just kind of like, oh, if I could only have this many inputs and outputs, I would buy that. Or really, if I only had this much money, I would buy that to have this many inputs and outputs.
Was it like 288 or something like that, SDI inputs?
Yeah, it was 288 by 288, which is pretty, it's actually more than I need by 6, so it's perfect. Yeah.
Find a way to fill it up.
Yeah. There were... kind of like the rest of the guys, a lot of the benefit of being here is just walking around and meeting vendors and people that you just wouldn't get to over the phone or by email. We've been taking a look at a different microphone that we're thinking about using in studio by a company called Point Source. Reason being, they go over the ear instead of under the ear. And a lot of the people in our studio are women, and they like their earrings. And any under-the-ear head-worn microphone just clicks because the earring moves as soon as they move their head. So we use these Countryman ISO or ISOMAX headsets, and they're big and they're ugly. So, invariably I have clients who say, hey, would you, I'd really like something smaller. And I said, okay, would you take your earrings off? And they say no. So they wind up with the big ISOMAX headset. So walk up to the Point Source booth and talking to the CEO of the company, and he's walking me through exactly how to fit it, exactly how it works. So that was a really cool just conversation that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I really like that. I've since bought a couple of them. I'll let you know how they actually turn out. The other thing that I spent a lot of time at that I'm kind of excited by, for those of you who have or are thinking about the Sony FR7s as PTZs, the Sony was demoing the firmware that they're releasing later this summer, July-ish, for the FR7s. And the new firmware adds AI tracking to the FR7s. And
Yeah, I saw you guys in After Hours playing with it. It was super impressive to see how
it was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the setup that it actually surprised me how bad an environment for tracking they were using.
Yeah.
Because like the shots that the PTZ was trying to get was constantly, the people were constantly going behind these pool table lamps and, losing the majority of the shoulders up. And the system was still tracking them. So it did a really good job. They're adding something. They're adding a 2-shot to the. I think it was the AF7 line. The
AM or something.
Yeah, the model that's
AM7.
just. Yeah, thank you. So they're adding a 2-shot to that particular, to the 2.0 version of that firmware that will keep 2 people in the shot. If they get closer together, it zooms in. I mean, we know that about something like this that's just a tiny bit more expensive than free.
Tiny.
Right? But, so this was, like, for me, I spent an hour at least there yesterday, and today we went back into the North Hall just to catch a couple loose ends, and I spent another hour just watching this thing and hearing the product manager answer questions about it, and it was just that I'm excited about.
Sometimes that's the best at the shows, is just listening to the other conversation.
Yeah.
Somebody asks a
Other
question
people
and you're like, I
asking
didn't even think
questions.
about that.
Yeah,
Especially
for
when they
sure,
work for
guy.
like these bigger organizations or these cities or government or something like that. And you're just like, you're getting how many? Like, some of the numbers are just mind-boggling what the government spends on or a studio spends on gear. It's like, what?
Budgets we don't fully understand. Yeah, you're not wrong. And then the last thing, I think this is a smaller one that I'm kind of excited about, is a product by Hollyland, which is a tally light system that they announced recently, and I got my hands on, and it natively supports the ATEM line. Has a little base station that's PoE. You plug it into the network, you punch in the IP address of your switcher, and it's got 4 or 8, depending on which model you purchase, and it can go up to 16 little lights with numbers on them. Put them on your cameras, and it just works.
Is it wireless?
Yeah.
Going out to them?
Yeah, going out, wireless up to like 800 feet or something like that. It's not using Bluetooth.
Okay.
And there were a couple of questions that I got to. I've seen them on their website. Got to actually hold them. They're nice. They're small, but still, bright and pretty useful. And little things that you're able to ask in person, like, hey, I know there's a USB-C port on here to charge this. When I plug that in, will it still function while it's charging? Right? Because for me, those batteries last 8 hours. We generally turn our tally lights on in the morning and turn them off at night. 11, 12 hours later, 8 hours is not going to cut it. And so I got the firm answer that yes, they work plugged in, which was cool.
And Mickey McAchore in the chat brings up for you to also check out mics from Voice Technologies if they're. I don't know if they're at the show, but that's the note.
Awesome.
I remember seeing their booth, actually.
Okay, there you go.
They are here.
Sweet.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Mickey.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anyway, so those were 3 standouts for me. I have a whole pocket full of business cards that I'm sure I'll
Throw away.
lose in the next 14
don't
seconds.
show those types of business cards on the show here. We don't want to see those cards.
Oh, that's what we're talking about again. Back to that commentary, right? The free T-shirts, that right next to that.
It is a good example. I mean, one of those business cards is like one of the Sony managers.
Yeah, the product line, product manager for the AG. Is that what you call it?
AM7.
The AM7. Yeah. It's the product manager for the AM7.
Which is just perfect, and you just wouldn't get that email easily.
Although it was really funny, he seems really bitter about the FR7 for some reason.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was. He just, he didn't like that camera.
No.
Or he didn't like the product
they
manager
have
for
like
the FR7.
5 different divisions. Like Sony has like 5 different divisions. I was talking to one of the developers at Scorhoy today about the controllers. I was telling him about our challenges with FR7 control, and I was like, "Do you have this problem?" So he brought me over to the AM7, and that was exactly. I was like, "Look, see how slow it moves? This is a difference." And so it's not. Well, we're using a different as Mark Roberts' controller. It was moving the same speed. Okay. So it is Sony basically championing themselves.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, we have to talk to one person for the AM7, and it's a totally different division for like the was it the A's, the Cinalook DSLR type full frame stuff. He's like, that's a totally different language. They don't talk to each other, and so we have to. And each one of those cameras, the broadcast cameras, completely different language also. So there's not a lot of synergy in Sony.
Yeah.
It's kind of like everybody's on their own island.
Yeah.
Well,
The same logo.
I still haven't been able to find the Sony booth. Alex and I were, we couldn't find it anywhere.
Well, so can I also tell you one other thing? This was interesting about Sony. The product manager told me what Sony actually stands for, which I didn't know. It relates to their release schedule. It's September, October next year.
October next year.
Yeah. So you're welcome. There you go. That was, I think, probably my biggest takeaway
Right,
from the
let's
Sony
round
booth.
it off with Omar's pick. What did you find, Omar, that you found of interest on the show floor so far?
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of what these guys have said, being able to just touch and feel. And there's a few things I'm looking at that I use in my productions. I've got a DJI transmission standard combo, and I want a V-mount pass-through plate. So being able to go to the Tilta booth and just see how it works and ask a couple of questions and find out its limitations, stuff like that. The Nucleus that Tilta has as well, the new Nucleus M2.
2.
I've used the Mark 1 quite a bit, and they're releasing a new one. So just getting to touch it and feel it before I go and pre-order is really, really nice. And then things like, I've been looking at shading solutions like Cyan View or Scarhoy I do a show with, like 6 FX6s, and having a good way to shade those that's not going to cost me, all of my arms and all of my legs.
We were just using one of those Cyan Views on Jeff's tennis event.
I spent about an hour and a half with them, and some of the stuff that they're coming out with is amazing. It's really, really groundbreaking.
I was able to test a Cyan View on a recent show with FX6s. I had some issues with the connection that were a little bit challenging, but it was overall it was a really nice solution. Like being able to just have those cameras be controlled over Ethernet standard IP was so nice. But I wanted to take a look at Scarhoy's implementation of the same thing. They're all using the same protocol with Sony's SDK to do the same things. I think it's the same one that the monitor and control app uses, but having a hardware controller that really works well. So checking out stuff like that. And I mean, to be able to do that, to get a Cyan View, like nobody rents them. So then you got to find a integrator that has one that wants to loan it for you for a little bit. It's like getting hands-on with stuff that's pretty niche like that. It's hard to do elsewhere other than here if you're not going to really, make a lot of calls and ask a lot of favors.
Yeah, for those that are watching that aren't there, that's one of the things that I just miss about not going this year is that the feel of the texture of whatever it is, like the Hall effect on a Scarhoy. Like, what does that fine move feel like, and then what's the material of the goods? Because some stuff, it looks good online, but when you actually get it, unless you read all the reviews or watch some YouTube videos, you just don't get it until you actually see the quality or hear the quality. And like those point source microphones, I know the ones he's talking about that Blue was mentioning, it's just that caliber of quality of sound, but also the ability for talent just to get mic'd up quickly without knocking those earrings around. And it's a difference of aesthetics, looks. So you put it on yourself and you go, does this look okay? And you can ask your troop, whoever you're with, what do you think? And you get the immediate feedback rather than having to order, send it back, test and then send it back. So many cool things on the floor like that where you get to appreciate the quality, ask the tech questions, get the feel, and then see if you want to go ahead and make that purchase. Was there anything else?
CJ and I were at the Blackmagic booth, and we were feeling how clicky the buttons were and how much travel was on the new ATEM Mini G2 buttons, and just being able to do that rather than having to order from B&H and send it back if you don't like the travel. You know what I mean? So
those were the same buttons on their older panels, right? The regular ATEM control surfaces, they're the exact same. Yeah, so they didn't change, right?
It felt the same. I have the old broadcast panel.
I thought I heard
it felt
Grant.
the same.
Petty say that they were the same buttons used in the previous build. So hopefully that's what they ship. I'm excited to see those. I was not excited to see the price jump. We'll see how the tariffs play out. It's a hit or miss thing. We got a couple questions coming in from the crowd. We got one in. You ready to read that, CJ?
Yeah, first up's from Paul Kovacs in Elkhart, Indiana. And Paul asks, have the guys from NAB been to Hollyland and looked at the new Lark Max Gen 2?
Yeah, CJ.
So
Is that the wireless mic?
yeah, it's the wireless mic, so it's similar to like what I've got here from the DJI, where it comes in the little charging case, just like their Gen 1. What they're touting on the new one is that it's now a 32-bit system, so the first one that came out was only 24-bit recording. They also have a companion headset with it so that you can have wireless monitoring to the receiver so that you're not trying to manage an extra cable. And then the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is they have a custom hot shoe mount for that's designed to work with Sony cameras, so that if you put the receiver on top of a Sony, you can have like a proxy audio track that's recorded through the hot shoe at 2448, and that's just going to get whatever's in, and so that'll be useful for sync in case you get any hits. Other than that, they are saying sometime in Q2 it's going to be out. No pricing announced, so not unknown if it's going to be at that same $200 or not. But that's what's new with the Mark II from Hollyland.
That's cool. When I was looking at those on Amazon, one of the previous versions, it said something like 500 or 1,000 sold in the last month. I'm like, man, that's cool to see that many content creators out there picking these things up, because that was always my gripe, poor audio on these content creators. And I'm sure Mickey will be like, no, Electro or sound devices or Axient. But, it's one of those things where for the price, these yoga instructors or these people walking a show floor and being able to get pretty darn good audio. I mean, the breakups have not been that bad on some of these units, as long as you're within a few feet.
Yeah,
the DJIs are impressive. They're good bang for the buck.
Last year I came in, I didn't have the little MVX2Us yet, and so I wanted to come in from a hotel at NAB, but I was like, how am I going to do it? The only thing I had was the DJI mic 2, and so I ended up getting some head-worn microphone that I didn't spend big DPA money on it, but it had the little Sennheiser 3.5 mil is what it was terminated for. And I thought it sounded great, for better than anything I would have gotten at the time. I'm happy that I actually packed a bigger microphone this time around, but is it the perfect tool? No, but when it's going to set up quickly and allow you to get a great signal out, then that's the difference of did you have time to get the shot out or not, if you are in a situation where it's impossible to plan.
Yeah, Rode really opened up a whole market with those Go's. At first, I was unimpressed.
Yeah.
It's not the 20 to 20 hertz that I'm used to hearing in like a Sanken Cost 11, Lav, and going through something more high end. But I do appreciate better sound than what we've seen over the years. Let's go ahead and jump into the next question.
Sure thing. Next question is from Jeff Veely, in Henderson, Texas. Jeff asks, what are your thoughts on using the new Blackmagic tech to switch in the cloud versus on-prem?
Yeah, Jeff.
No. I'm not a fan of the implementation.
Blackmagic?
I wouldn't say that out loud.
Yeah.
I'm not a big user of Blackmagic gear any longer. I have clients that I support that use it. Okay. But it's not my first choice.
Cue the song Black, let's see, Once Bitten, Twice Shy.
Yeah. I started out with them in years ago, and it just was not a good thing. So whenever I see them talk about the cloud stuff and their replay too, same thing, I'm like, what? I'm just like, you're trying to reinvent something that did not
software.
need to be done.
Yeah.
But the cloud implementation, 4 inputs, really? That's it? And that's just not applicable for our side at all.
It's a start. It's their first foray. We'll see how.
You're here for that.
I think they were just doing it just to say, oh, look at us, we could do cloud too. I really felt like that was the real.
You thought that was a Me Too moment?
Very much.
Look, I want to quiz them a little bit. I said I hadn't spent much time there yet, and I do want to ask a few more questions about it. But I'm kind of a fan of the software, and the fact that I've already got a whole bunch of stuff that's implemented in that system, and some cool things with Companion and just really familiar with how that whole software works across their whole line, which is really amazing. That the tiny little A10 Mini for $300 has the same software control as, was that lightning?
No, our light went out.
Oh, the lights. Sorry.
Your backlight went out.
Nobody yelled striking. We were all confused.
I've got a key light now. The fact that the ATEM Constellation 8K has the same software, and now they're going to have a cloud solution with the same software, is appealing to me. But I thought the same thing, that low input count, and also, can I get zoom into it? Or can I? What's the contribution? Into it at the moment, apart from doing their. I mean, those encoders and decoders are quite exciting. I like that. So that's interesting to see. But I'm just not sure how that all syncs up and things. So there's a few questions there.
Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
It looks pretty clunky. I like Jeff. I'm still deep in the Blackmagic world, but I probably have less relationships there, so I don't mind saying it. It's pretty clunky. I think they're going for the lowest common denominator type of production. The first cloud users, right? So somebody, hey, I'm in the cloud. I just need to get 3 cameras in and do my podcast and make it as simple as possible. And they'll probably get some people there. And like Graham mentioned, it's a familiar interface for us that use it pretty often from our little $300 switcher. So I think they'll probably get some adoption that way. But I think they just needed to dabble, put their toes in the water, and I'm no cloud master. I've spun up some EC2s here and there, and got vMix going and Zoom rooms and NDI bridge and all that stuff. But that's a far cry from what they're doing. But I don't think anybody that would want to do what I just described is really. That's who's going to adopt it. Is somebody who's already got their Blackmagic cameras, who's fully involved in their ecosystem. Yeah, they're gonna dabble.
Yep.
Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, the only time I think it makes sense is I think back to the education uses, like what are we doing at the high school level, or what are we doing at the kid level, who don't have the budget and the expertise and some of the institutional tech debt in their heads of how things are supposed to work, to say, okay, I know a school, the school district that's right around the corner from PTZ Optics back in Pennsylvania. That's where I used to live. I'm friends with a gentleman who does their AV stuff. They've got 2 high schools, a half dozen middle schools, and they've got cameras at every single one of them, and they're trying to figure out how do I take those all back to a central location and switch it. They don't have 20 or 30 cameras at each one of those sporting events. They got a wide shot. They have 2 people who are on focus and maybe a third that's like a roamer. Those are the situations where, okay, this is going to help be the gateway or the on-ramp for the next generation to come through. And the other piece that you sometimes see Blackmagic get into is they're on this mission to bring it to a price point where they're democratizing or trying to bring it to a less of a big barrier to entry from a cost perspective. That makes it appealing to places like a school district. And 10, 15 years down the road, they may have been able to refine it enough. Like they are always putting things out like before they're done, it feels like, and they're starting to lay the groundwork for this stuff. And then 10 or 15 years later, it's like, okay, now there's something that's actually built around this. But the kids who started to learn on Blackmagic maybe are going to give it a harder look when they're the ones who are actually doing a production, or they're more likely to not have any sort of stigma about the brand when they're in the position to actually say, okay, what am I going to use here? Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, it's their first foray. I wonder how quickly we'll see an 8-input or other contribution methods, SRT or Zoom or JPEG XS or NDI bridge would be pretty crazy if Blackmagic finally got into some kind of NDI
that'll
flow.
Never happen.
That'll never happen.
And Aaron in the chat from here on the roof says Blackmagic's coming like
in the chat and on the roof.
becoming like Apple in the 90s, spread too thin.
It's gonna come. You can
Hey, Aaron.
just mouth.
And the question, next question.
Next
by-
question is from Aaron here on the roof from Durham, North Carolina. What has the AI talk been like at NAB?
Let's go, Jeff.
For me, just like on the Sony thing, it's not real AI.
No.
So it's computer vision. They call it AI. It's not AI. There is a company called Advanced Image Robotics that is using truly AI. They're going in a visual language model that they're building themselves. They're training. They're putting in the data, and its tracking is really amazing. And it's their own design. It's a different design of a PTZ type setup. It uses a Z-cam on the actual camera module, and then it does it's almost like a gimbal as the approach, but the way they can do tracking and the way they were doing tracking, like point source, they were doing can't remember, I think it was Stephen Curley in basketball, and he goes track that person, and it literally in a basketball game he was moving all around. It stayed locked on him the whole time because they trained that model to go. That was pretty impressive.
It reminds you of the ping pong demo
real,
from last year.
Yeah. That was the first time I've seen what I would consider true AI in tracking happen. Everything else is just computer vision, and it's just adjusting. You're just adjusting with the algorithm that they're using. That's it.
Yeah.
So as other AI, I haven't seen that much actually. There really hasn't been. It hasn't been as big as it was last year. I don't think. As far as just like, oh look, we're AI. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, it's not as impressive, I don't think, to people. It's just like, oh, you're calling it AI as well. Yeah.
CJ, what'd you think?
Last year it was like everybody who had an ounce of algorithm or machine learning anywhere in their product is now with AI. Like they just kind of tossed it in like it was salt. But the two places that the two places that I saw it were number one with the Resolve 20 update. They've taken it a step further than just transcription. And now, in addition to doing dialogue transcription of whatever you throw into it, they're also doing speaker identification. So imagine, again, you're trying to take away the things that, if you think back when we had Michael Cioni on the show and he talked about, okay, you've got generative AI and you've got utility AI. The utility AI piece is doing the grunt work, and it's doing the pieces that you don't want to do, or you don't have time to do, or you don't have the budget to hire an assistant editor to do. So now when I'm going in here and editing out or editing together a corporate piece, and I don't have a lot of time to sit there and log the footage, now I can take the speaker tracks, have the AI go in, not only say what they're saying so I can search in a timeline index for a specific point in time, but also as I'm going to do some light dialogue mixing, again, nothing like a professional like a Mickey of the world would do, but something that is going to be better than if I just left it alone. It's separating out their individual parts where they were speaking, putting it all on the different tracks, and then I can go ahead and put my dovetail fades in and all the rest and tighten things up where there were unnatural pauses. More and more tools like that are exciting, and I think it's going to empower a lot of people to do a lot more polished work because they don't need to have as large of a team. What's becoming less clear is what is the actual AI behind it. How many of these folks are putting a layer on top of what Anthropic and Gemini and ChatGPT are doing at an API level? So where it feels like, in some regard, like we're starting to see the corporate veil get put over last year, where we just saw the raw tech. Adobe did have one demo in their booth with Firefly. Now the Firefly has a Gen AI for video, where you can put in, I need a moving camera shot across a landscape, et cetera, et cetera. But then they have drop downs, much in the way that you would have for a Midjourney, where you can say, okay, where do I want to use the seed from an earlier shot so that I have the same type of character and I have consistency from shot to shot. Is this an aerial shot? Is it a close-up? Is it an extreme close-up? It lets you do all of those parameters as drop-downs, so then it's putting the prompt that you put in plus a layer of all of the attributes or parameters that you set, and then it's going ahead and creating the video. So
Very
I
cool.
didn't stick. It took a really long time to generate. By the time it actually got done generating, I was onto something else. So I don't know what it looks like, but they're trying.
Awesome. How about you, Omar?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest, I think, thing that's going to help me in my productions is the Resolve 20. That's our primary NLE that we use. We switch from Premiere, and I still use After Effects because I can't quite get around the nodes in Fusion, but we use DaVinci for all of our edits at our company, and just all the tools that the CJ just described. I think it's just going to make things easier, faster. You know, we're going to be able to do more with what we're given, and do things faster, and get it to a place where we can really refine it a lot faster than we were before. And I mean, you don't have to be at NAB to see that. You can download the beta right now. So that's nothing special to the show here. And I'd really like to echo too what CJ just said. I think people are just wrapping, you know, the AI, Gen AI tools in a nice shiny package and calling them features now rather than AI. So, which is good. I mean, it's happening. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. If it works, it works. I want tools that work. So, but yeah, I haven't seen a bunch of like, we've got AI on the show floor this year, where there was everywhere last year, everywhere.
How about you, Grant? What do you see?
Yeah, I heard some things about Zoom and Zoom Companion and doing more work on that. Which will be pretty interesting for it to be able to potentially control or access third-party things and to tie into third-party APIs directly from Zoom. Now, obviously, that's like you think of it like enterprise and stuff where they're having meetings, and then in the meeting they discuss something about a flight, you know, that needs to be booked or that could be booked or something, and suddenly now Companion's saying, you know, here's the flight details or whatever it is, right? Because it's tied into other stuff. But I started thinking about it from a production point of view, and what could that do tied into other things that it's automatically doing based on podcast recordings or whatever it is. So that's a more legitimate AI move that's happening there in Zoom. So it's exciting.
Nice. Let's go to the next question.
Next up's from Tommy Shantz in St. Paul, Minnesota. And Tommy asks, have you found any new exciting NDI or network solutions that you find exciting?
Jeff.
Absolutely. Pablo, who does AV Sono, Pablo has a network monitoring software platform, and so it can manage it doesn't really do anything to your network as far as making it work better, but you can see where the problems are, or if there are challenges that you're having, you can see a certain node, as he calls them, the remote nodes out there. You can see, well, this is the traffic that we're having a problem on. That's why we're dropping frames and such. So it's primarily at analyzing your NDI networks, or NDI-based production networks. Great platform. Good stuff.
Awesome. How about you, Grant?
I literally ran into JJ, and which was awesome.
Him.
Oh yeah, and apart from getting a big bear hug, which is awesome, which is what is kind of amazing.
The big guy.
Well, yeah, do you know, a slight aside, and that is that, you know, this is the first time that I'm meeting a bunch of people on office hours, and I kind of Blue and I are having this conversation. We're just talking about Zoom and the connections that we've had with people. And there's some people that I've run into kind of connected with office hours. And I think there's a difference between the people that I've been on panel with in Zoom and the people that I've just been on YouTube. And I think the difference is a handshake or a hug. And the people that I've been on panel with, we've all gone in for hugs and like extra connection. Yeah. And then there's other people that, you know, warm handshakes, absolutely, and super nice and friendly, but there was something different about the way that we've connected online, you know. And so JJ, you know, we you know, remember 4 or 5 years ago, JJ doing things in the middle of the night and us being on, you know, after hours and that sort of stuff. So anyway, my point is, he talked about NDI 6.2 or whatever it is, and MIDI. And I heard about MIDI across NDI, and I just didn't know what application that might be. Well, then he talked about even just MIDI controllers, like flying faders and stuff.
DMX also.
And I was like, oh man, I didn't even think about like remote control over NDI bridge suddenly becomes super easy.
Yep, that's the whole point.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was seeing that AV Sono announcement as well with the Netgear, and at Ross's keynote, which we can put a link in the chat, the 2025 keynote, they not only announced version 9 of their Ross socks, which you have to be there to get them. I have version 2 or something. You have some, CJ? Did you get the Ross socks?
Oh, look.
Nice.
No.
Who's got?
Oh, they're just NAB show socks. But Aaron
has his rock.
Wait. We got to see what they look like. Ooh.
I wanted Aaron to be the showgirl at the back showing off the swag.
Yeah, you may as well do it close.
There we go.
You need a tight shot for this.
Yeah, take it back over there.
Showing off the swag. Here we go.
Come on, look at that.
Coveted.
Wow.
Very coveted.
Coveted Ross socks.
Well done.
That's the FOMO right there. So NDI-wise, what they announced is Ultrix now works with the NDI. So some of the implementations for a big player like that to be putting NDI into their big heavy iron stuff that you would have never seen a couple of years ago, where a big player like Grass Valley or somebody would just be like, oh, that's for the kids. You know, like now Ross is stepping up and being like, yeah, we're putting it in. So that was an exciting announcement.
Customers demand it, and they're delivering.
Blue can't raise his hand because he hasn't got.
No, he has NDI.
He's got his own.
He can do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. So for me, it was less about a direct NDI tool, but more about the implementation of NDI in our facility. I've been contemplating changing our networks, because we have a physical Dante network, and then we have a production network that carries 10 sources of NDI, essentially, in addition to access to the internet. And so I've been contemplating moving a little bit more heavily into the Netgear 4250, 4350 line of switches to make my life a little bit easier on some level, and possibly be able to actually combine those two networks without having to do all the fancy smart things that Jeff knows how to do with VLANs and other stuff that I don't fully understand. And apparently they made these switches specifically for dumb AV guys like myself. And I was able to just have it was another example of a great conversation talking about exactly all of the types of devices that we have on our network and how we would be able to do this and have NDI, Dante, internet, essentially everything coexist on the same network without stepping on everything, and how easy it is, but then just as importantly, how to bridge the various switches together, because we can't do it in one device. We need, probably 3 or 4 switches total in order to make it work. And we, just talking about the layers of implementation to make that happen. Yeah, the stacking was, which you've talked to me about, but when you talked to me about it, I didn't fully understand it. When the folks from Netgear did, I much more easily did. Of course, that's probably marketing speak. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He said it with a cowboy hat on, but
No offense.
yeah.
No, that was Fenwick with a cowboy hat.
Solid. So yeah, that for me was really really beneficial. A little bit more understanding of multicast and some of those things around. So not a specific NDI tool, but just more the implementation in our studio environment was a really fantastic conversation that I was able to have.
And I believe that they'll allow you to send them an email. There's a spot on their website where it's like Pro AV at Netgear, where if you want to have them
I had a conversation. This was the really cool part about that conversation is I sent an email about 2 weeks ago, and I had a short back and forth with somebody there. And the person that I was standing in front of was the same person who responded. So I was able to, literally continue that conversation, which again is something that wouldn't have happened. Seriously?
Yeah.
What are you doing over there? We'll just...
He got bored.
I know, I'll turn that fader down. It's like, oh, it's just blue. Forget it.
It's like he's trying to set up the sphere cam.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Fortunately, the A1 can bring down his audio. All right. So, you're welcome. Anyway, so that was me. Sorry, I'll stop talking now.
That's cool.
Okay. Oh, we got another question, but our reader's off in La La Land.
La La
so
Land,
let me pick that up. You got
The next question is from Kenny Hampton in Greenville, Illinois. Kenny asks, what does the group think about the new West Hall? What kind of vendors are in the hall?
I spent about 7... Oh, I'm sorry, Omar. Shut up.
Blue. All right, go.
We'll circle back to you. Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time over there. I think AWS and VizRT are the two big boys that are over there that we're all familiar with. T-Mobile and all the carriers with their business plans and their new stuff. AT&T, all those guys, they're over there as well. And it's definitely the quieter of the halls. You know, it's not the fancy hardware and all the cool little toys and stuff, but there's a lot of cool vendors over there. I spent a little bit of time. I met with Andy Carluccio at Zoom and a couple of his colleagues today over there. Had a conversation about something I'm working on with Zoom Rooms. So
What
stuff
booth-
like that.
What booth were they on? Because Zoom hasn't got a booth, but they've got a few
Partners.
kind of partners that they're jumping around. At.
It wasn't at a booth. They've got like a meeting room back there, so I had a meeting with them. But
Gotcha.
they got like a little cabana type of setup there, roped off. But yeah,
Nice.
Go ahead.
I'm going to throw
I'm
the
good.
TD a little loop. Can we see CJ's camera since he went through all that effort live on the air?
I was trying to give you a closing shot.
Whether it's good or
we
not,
can save it.
just cut to it. You know, because
Do you got that built up? All right, they might have to make that an input. We'll come back to it at the end. Go ahead, Blue. You had something to add about West Hall?
No, I didn't have anything of value to add. I spent about 17 seconds in West Hall, and it was all things that were far more intelligent than me. So I was actually going to pass it off to Jeff because he spent the whole day there yesterday.
Yeah, I did West Hall on Sunday. So I tried to break up. I'm tired of walking. So I did West Hall Sunday, so yesterday, and then I did North Hall today and South is tomorrow. And I just basically build my show route out of that. The NAB app, if you're not using it, it's amazing.
It is good.
It's so easy to say, oh, I'm here. How close do I have to be to get to the next meeting, that kind of thing. But West Hall is definitely quieter. I was surprised that VizRT actually moved over there. They've been in South Hall for a long time, and then we moved back when I worked with them on the trade shows. We were in South Hall all the time. And then they moved to Central, and then when Central closed, they didn't go into North with the other big video players. It was more, So, but they're probably the biggest of the video-centric, like production people there. Everything else is a lot of cloud, a lot of and then there's
business services
the
and
poor radio guys. Those I feel so sorry for.
Well, and Vimeo, so you know.
Yeah, they were there too. But the poor radio guys, they were just like one guy. Just you feel sorry. It's like you're watching that the commercial about the little dogs in the corner because he's sitting there and he's just like nobody wants to talk to me at all. I just felt I had to stop and go like, "You're still doing radio?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm trying." That's it. But that's all I felt about West Hall. I did spend the day.
CJ, what did you think of West Hall?
Proximity to Siegel's Bagel Mania is really that's what I want to talk about. You can get some great matzo ball soup before it gets to be 90 degrees later in the week. You know that they're desperate to get people to pay attention to the West Hall because they stuck most of the sessions and they stuck the press pool on the second floor meeting room of the West Hall on the far side, maybe 150 yards from the actual expo floor. So you've got to go all the way out there, which to get from the South Hall to the West Hall on foot is got to be a mile and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, I visited all the halls when I got here on Friday, and then I did most of the hall. I walked 17,000 steps yesterday. I mean, that was, I looked back at my Apple Watch. That's the most in over a year. I know.
I need to get out more,
it's hard. I know it's hard to tell with my stunning figure and all, but no, I don't walk that much, I guess. But it was good. I got the good shoes for it. definitely,
NAB shoes.
yes.
And the Tesla tunnel,
go on my
why didn't you
socks.
jump into one of those cars and just zip underneath
Well,
the
that's
city?
what I was just going to, well, because my yesterday on foot was to try and find lithium batteries for the Electrosonics. I don't want to talk about it. It's a long story. I was at 4 stores. But and then I paid $3 per AA. I was like, come on. But the receipt came out to $77.77. So I thought in Vegas, that's got to be a win if it's all sevens. But when you're in the West Hall, it's clear that that's where they're trying to build it up. It's new, it's nice. Every bathroom's got water bottle filling stations and everything's all plush and polished. But I would love the West Hall if it were the only hall. Yeah. I think it's really, I think it's a beautiful convention for a 10 to 25,000 person conference. I think it would be great. For NAB, it's tough to make us go way out there. So it's, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the, if you're going to have a convention here and use multiple halls, the West Hall has to be one of them. I bet you it's in the rider.
Yeah.
The connection to North was pretty easy.
Yeah, and to Guy's point, the Tesla tunnel is very fast and it's free to get between the halls. So like John Idelson and I got from West Hall to South Hall, and we only waited about 10 minutes. And then to get from Resorts World, the Encore, the Westgate, it's like $6.50 round trip.
It's not bad.
So
it's actually, I think they linked it up to downtown too.
Yeah, and then somebody's in like, now they're tunneling out near the airport. So I mean, they're building a whole little network under the
Easier
city.
to get around.
All right, for the regular viewers, we're going to skip the content picks this week, so we have time for a couple more questions. So we'll go ahead and grab another one here. Or CJ, was that you throwing your arms up like you had some kind of content?
I mean, it's in my notes here. I've been getting ready for it. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't want to surprise Blue because
next up's from.
Sorry, I was just going to say that shot that took. CJ half an hour to set up was that you can see that
beautifully framed though.
That is the West,
really magnificent.
That is the West Hall.
It's a beautiful
there
roof shot.
It is. Well done.
There's the West Hall. There you go.
There you go. West Hall.
You decided to go with the 0.5 inch.
Yeah, can we get the 3x zoom there?
Right. That's what I was just saying. We're trying to give him a hard time on that.
What's with the 4.3 pillar boxes on the side?
Yeah. He's looking at me going, "Didn't you tell me that it wouldn't get the fence? You told me it wouldn't get the fence, Blue."
Next question is from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. Paul asks, Blackmagic's new drive bay, do the drives require some kind of carrier or cage or just slip in and out barefoot? And that is the Cloud Backup 8 that they were talking about on Friday.
Yeah, from what I saw,
did you? Yeah,
they do not require a cage.
Yeah, I think they just go right in.
I think they're just 3.5 inch drives. Yeah.
And they were Grant was so proud of the case that they've got as well. They're selling cases for them.
For the little VHS cases.
Yeah. That's fantastic. They sell those for the 2.5 inch. Again, with the microphone.
Yes, but there's a couple of Blackmagic questions there, and as I said, I'm yet to spend a quality amount of time there.
Me neither.
Next up from Roz McNulty in Vancouver. Has anybody seen the new Blackmagic Cine Camera Immersive?
Go ahead, Omar.
Knees.
Sorry. I saw it at the booth. They have a demo set up actually where they take you through the workflow, and they also have a separate section where you can sit down with some glasses and look at the image that they're generating. I didn't do the demo, so I think I'm going to do that tomorrow, just to have a quick look and see what it feels like. But they have a demo there. They got their new big stereos camera set up for everybody to ogle.
Yeah, I'm excited to check that thing out. It looks like CJ raised his hand on this one, but CJ seems to be off in La La Land. Go,
yeah,
CJ.
So we looked at the Blackmagic Cine camera today for a little while. We just got to see around it, but there was a line about 10 people deep to actually get the demo there in after hours. So I'm 100% going back over. I may even I brought a Vision Pro with me, and I'm wondering if they have any ability for you to use your own. But they had like an army of those little face guards there that they kept cleaning and trying to, and I don't know, they must have some sort of deal with Apple to get them for cost, because they want you to buy them for $200. if you get it in the store. But
Did you demo it?
I didn't demo because the line was too long, so I'm going to go back on Tuesday or Wednesday, right in between people starting to thin out and it turning into a ghost town and me wanting to go barter with people at the booth to buy the gear and take it home.
Yeah.
I'm going to I'm going to get the Cine demo, but it looks pretty exciting. I'm so pumped, and I know Alex has talked about it a lot, to see the wave of content that this is going to bring, and it's going to, I think, create a new language for how do we put pictures into a 3D spatial immersive space, and not only have the audience for it be the Vision Pro, but also things like the Meta and other stuff like that.
Yep.
Exciting. Next question.
Next up's from Douglas Carmichael. What does everyone think about the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2? Do we think we'll see G2 versions of the smaller ATEM Minis?
Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, we took a look at it today on After Hours. It looks nice. I mean, I have an ATEM SDI Extreme. I have a couple ATEM Mini Pros, and then I've got a Constellation. I think for everything I'm using my ATEM SDI, if they had an SDI version, I would consider the upgrade just for the balanced XLR in and the nice clicky buttons. And the new Fairlight page that they demoed is a really nice feature as well. The Thunderbolt built in for key fill. I mean, I have a Sonnet box with a deck link in there, and that's $700 new right there. So if you're gonna do a key fill from a external source, graphics or something like that, I don't love the $2,000. I'd like it at $1,500 or wherever the other one is. But I mean, I think they're going to sell a lot of them, and I think it's going to do very well. And as soon as they come out with an SDI version, I might replace it. I've had a lot of issues with the existing one for ISO records using various media. I've tried almost every one on their list, and at some point I've had a failure. So the new CFast, is it CF Express? CF Express?
Yep.
CFast, yeah, CFast internal card. I think will help solve that issue. So I think there's a lot to like about it if that's the size of production that you're doing.
All right, CJ, your thoughts?
Love the buttons. I also am excited about the Thunderbolt being available as an out. So they were demoing it as Thunderbolt into the Mac, but to give the multi-view over to the instant replay feature. My hope is that they can use that extra bandwidth, and they've given it enough oomph inside the box that maybe they can send a signal that doesn't have the ATEM crush. Omar and I were chatting a little bit as we were wrapping up, and while we couldn't get them in the booth to admit to having an SCI version of that switcher in the pipeline, he said that they were trying to blame the ATEM crush on UVC, and they were like, timeout. You know, we've got a Camlink in this backpack right now. I've got a Magewell sitting on my desk. I've got a Roland sitting on my desk at work. None of them have that problem. But now that there's that extra space, that extra bandwidth, the hope is that they can get there. But we got our jabs in. We gave them some feedback on the interface and little things that they could do. And I know that the Fairlight audio stuff, like Mickey, if Mickey's still listening, he's rolling his eyes at me to even be talking about audio on an ATEM, but they're putting balanced audio in, they're giving you MADI in, they want people to be able to, that don't have that extra infrastructure, to be able to start to play with it. So I like that the extra tools are there. I think it's pretty exciting.
Right on. We got one last question here from Paul before we wrap.
Last question from Paul Volhus in Austin, Texas, USA. Paul asked CJ detailed parts of his walk-around rig today.
CJ.
My walk-around rig is way less impressive than Omar's walk-around wig. No, I need the wig. He has hair. I'm just going to wear a hat. My rig is really dumb. It's an Osmo 6. I have a little. It's in use right now, so I've spent some time getting it up, so I'm not going to take it down. It's an Osmo 6 with a
highly
iPhone.
technical mount that you've got going on.
You like that? I use my Blackmagic, or I use my NAB lanyard to affix it to the fence so it wouldn't blow away, and it's approved. And yeah, it's an Osmo 6 with my iPhone. I am either using the iPhone 16 or my iPhone 15 from last year, depending on whether or not I need to be just recording or streaming. And it's the only thing that I did that was neat about it is instead of that little magnet-on clamp, that you buy from Blackmagic. I bought a MagSafe version of it, so it sticks to the phone magnetically, it sticks to the rig magnetically, and it's balanced as soon as it's balanced automatically. So the center of gravity is fixed as soon as it's there, and I don't have to spend any time balancing the rig, so I can get in and out pretty quickly. And having that little extension pole is nice, because just being able to get 8 or 9 feet in the air versus only being able to get as far as my short arms will go, then it was nice to just get a little bit above the crowd, and I'm hoping to do more of that. It seemed like folks were enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely come into After Hours again. And for those of you watching that weren't able to make it to the show, After Hours is the place to be. Make sure you go to those Discord alerts and turn that one on if you have all the alerts muted, so that way you will get a push notification out, and you'll know when CJ or Grant or Omar are in there, because otherwise there's no other way for you guys to know. So appreciate you guys being the boots on the ground, and appreciate you for going up to the rooftop and getting out the Starlink and coming in live and giving our viewers a treat.
It's worked really well, and in fact, I think the cellular in the halls is better than it has ever been. At least, I'm on a prepaid T-Mobile connection, and it's working great. And so I was getting 400 meg down when I do a speed test in the middle of everyone there. I had 30 meg up. Other guys were getting ultra wideband and getting 2 gig, and I saw a 3 gig down.
Jason Corella got 3 gig down.
Yeah, 3 gig get it down connection sitting in the middle of the hall.
He was right underneath the millimeter wave piece.
Yeah.
So like that was
He also took 10 years off of his life.
I was going to say he actually died on the spot, but it was amazing to see.
No, the rumors of Jason's death,
but it was like 12K video going out. It was incredible footage.
Yeah, there you go.
But you couldn't get Wi-Fi. We couldn't get Wi-Fi between the Keenan's rig and Alex yesterday, and then I couldn't get a personal hotspot between the phone that has cellular and the old phone that now is just a camera. So even though you can get a 3,000 signal right at the thing, for the 2 devices to talk to another, golly, I don't know.
That's a problem. Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, appreciate you guys for coming in live, and glad to be able to host. Thanks for letting me step into your shoes for a minute. These are kind of big shoes to fill here, but I have a solid connection, so glad to be able to lend a hand. And thank you, Omar, for also coming in from live from Las Vegas, and for the back end crew, all the folks, Taylor and Peter and Alan, and I'm probably forgetting somebody back there, but thank you all for stepping up, and Jarrett for helping with whatever he helped with there. Boots on the ground.
Good work.
He's behind. Is it safe to pan to the right? If I actually pan
he's
no, other way.
No, that's where he's going. He's going
left here. There you go.
There it is.
Oh, there's Jarrett. There's the pool.
There he is.
All right.
He's eager to shut it all down so he can go get some food.
He's the man, the myth, the legend. There he is.
Look at that sky.
I'll be back on the floor tomorrow, so I'll probably do another couple hours to After Hours. So maybe CJ and I can link up for a little bit and do some stuff. That was really fun, and we got some nice mics now, so we'll nice DJI mics. We'll try to get some more conversations going with people at the booth.
Great work.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Guy.
We're signing off. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.